Happy Friday, everyone. How we
Happy
doing?
Friday.
Yeah, happy Friday. Well, happy Good Friday. It's a nice day.
Good Friday.
It's Friday.
Yeah.
It's Friday.
The week is ending.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
week is ending. How about that?
Yeah.
How about that?
That's great. Great.
Well, I'm excited about the show. Jessica, so psyched that you're joining us today. We're gonna have a lot of fun and a great conversation.
Yeah, I'm really excited to chat to you both. It's I think it's going to be definitely the highlight of the day, maybe the highlight of the week.
Ooh. Let's hope it's
Okay.
highlight of the week.
Yeah.
Same. Yeah.
We'll see. I'll let you know at the end. I'll give you a rating of like a Monday is 1 star and a Friday is 5 stars. So you're somewhere in the 5-star rating.
We're going for a 5-star.
Yeah, absolutely.
For sure 5-star. Well, let's get going. We have a lot of rituals in the Modern People Leader. We follow them every episode. I think our audience has grown accustomed to them. And well, if they haven't, Daniel and I love traditions. So our first is good news stories. It's been a tough week, just in a general sense, like with all the things that are happening in the world. But it's good to show, find gratitude and positivity. So anyone want to, I'll kick us off. Usually I defer, but I'm going to strike first today. So after a whirlwind week in which I've been in all the time zones in the last 72 hours, I'm in LA, sunny LA, and I'm going to be spending a long weekend here and working remotely from here for a week. So that's my good news.
Nice. I love that news. It's actually a beautiful day here in New York City. That's not my good news, but it is a beautiful day here in New York City. My good news is I just filed my first ever patent last week, which is pretty patent if you're in the accent.
I understood.
Yeah. That was a really fun process. It's a really exciting new product launch we have coming out at Whereby in the next couple of weeks. And it's been a real joy to get that all filed and see all the hard work get submitted. So the team is really excited about it.
Well, congratulations. And
Thanks.
I will piggyback off of that. So as of November 2nd, so 2 days ago, Stephen and I officially made the Modern People Leader a company, like a legit company. We signed all of our LLC documents, and yeah, it's really exciting. And so for all of our listeners out there, if there is like an HR tech company that you're a huge fan of, let us know. We're looking for our first ever corporate sponsor. And yeah, I feel like we're moving into a new phase of the Modern People Leader, and I'm really excited about it.
Wow, what grown-up good news as well from us.
Yeah, we got a patent, we got an LLC.
And we got a trip to LA.
We've got palm trees and sunshine. What more could we want? Well, we've got a lot to dig into, and you've got a great story, Jessica. I just love your story, and the more I've gotten to get to know you and learn kind of the journey you've been on, I can't wait for you to share that and just have a deeper conversation with you. And so, but let's start there. So walk us through your story. I call this the Brene Brown question, like, what's your story?
Yeah.
What has your journey been? And how has that led to you becoming the COO at Whereby?
Yeah. So as you just said, I'm the COO at Whereby. I do have a people operations background. So I pretty much have always worked in people, talent, legal before moving into the COO position. My history and a kind of little snap story is I was born and raised in Australia in a really rural part of Queensland. I started working at BHP Billiton, which is in the mining industry, as like a HR grad. I worked there for a couple of years before moving to the UK, and I worked in London and the UK for a couple of years, starting really, really big at Goldman Sachs and ending all the way down into something much smaller. So I was working in kind of Series A, Series B startups towards the end of my time before I landed on moving to Whereby. I've been with Whereby for about almost 3 years, I think, actually now. And I started as the VP of People and Legal, and I moved over to the COO role, I think, almost 2 years ago now.
Love it. Another Goldman alumni.
Yeah.
I don't think we overlapped, but
no, I was in Fleet Street in London as well, and I was in the HCM team. So I think like probably even if we were at the same time, our worlds would not have collided. It's a big machine, isn't it?
It is a huge machine. I laugh because I have family members and they're like, or and cousins, a lot of cousins, not just Daniel. There's a lot of cousins out there, and they'll be like, "Oh, I know so and so that works at Goldman in New York." And I'm like, "Yeah, it." There's like 20,000 employees in New York alone. I'm sorry,
Yeah.
but enough about me. Getting back to Whereby, and so why should we be jealous that you get to work at Whereby?
Great question. I love this question. Um, the thing that I really love about Whereby, well, it's one of those, it's a funny question, right? Because you're asking people leaders this question, and a lot of people leaders have built these very things. So it's kind of patting myself on the back. So I'm going to acknowledge that people out there listening are like, all right, you're just giving yourself mad compliments here. But first of all, I really love the CEO of my team, Avon. He's a brilliant leader, and I think anyone should be jealous to have a relationship with their manager as good as I have with him. But then more broadly, just about the company, Whereby are a fully distributed hours agnostic business. So there's a huge degree of autonomy in terms of how you work, when you work, where you work. And for me, that's just really fantastic. It's super freeing. I have so much autonomy on how I do things. And the whole company is very forward thinking when it comes to ways of working. So we have a whole team that really contributes to kind of building this autonomous but very high responsibility and high accountability culture, which means that we do good work we're really proud of in a way that really works for us as individuals, which is just a nice way to live, isn't it?
Yeah, it sounds like the dream, honestly. So, and for those of those in our audience that aren't familiar with Whereby, tell us a little bit about the core business. You're building some really cool tech. So
Yeah, Whereby is a video conferencing solution essentially, but we have two main products. We have a kind of B2C consumer facing video conferencing solution. It's really easy to use. It's beautiful. It's all in browser. So you don't need to be downloading anything, and you can kind of fully customize it. You can have pretty backgrounds and really make it your own brand. That is probably about 50% of our revenue. And then the other 50% of our revenue comes from this developer product that we sell, which is APIs and SDKs. So if you're out there building an app or a tool and would like to embed video conferencing inside of that, so not having people jump out of your app and go into a Zoom or a Teams or whatever other video conferencing tool you want to use, you can just embed Whereby into your product and just keep your users engaged in a kind of fully branded white labeled video conferencing solution that we've built.
oh my God, I can't tell you how frustrating it is having to log in and out of Zoom, then join a Teams meeting because we have clients that are using Teams and log in, and then I have to download the app and then delete it later because I don't want it. So that sounds like also a dream. More seamless video conferencing.
It's a beautiful product. It's a beautiful product. I think it's very beautiful.
So should we talk about all the stuff that's happened this week? I feel like, I don't know. I know we didn't plan to talk about. Yeah, it's definitely the elephant in the room. It feels like every time I log into LinkedIn, there's a new "I just got laid off" post, or the news with Twitter. I saw your post today, and honestly, this hit pretty close to home for me. Honestly, even nervous talking about it, but I was affected this week. It's the first time I've ever been laid off, and it sucks. It sucks for me. It sucks for the people that were on my team. It sucks for my manager. It sucks for HR. It sucks for the remaining employees. And yeah, I don't know. It's just such a weird experience. I don't know. I'm going on this roller coaster of emotions. It's when it happened, I was like, well, maybe this happened for the best. I can really focus on the modern people leader and make this my full-time thing. And then I was talking to Steven about this. Then there's the ego side where I'm like, they say it has nothing to do with me. They say it's, a failure of the business. But part of me is like, well, what if it was partly me? It's just a weird process. So I'll just stop right there. And I know there was, a lot of companies that laid off people this week. So it's a weird time.
It's an extremely weird time. It feels, gosh, I feel like this is the main thing that I've been talking about this week with everybody. It's just so front of mind for so many people. It's really scary. I'm so sorry you're affected. And I've been laid off before. And yeah, I agree. No matter how much you hear positive reinforcement, you still feel really bad. You just can't, it's not a nice it's not a nice situation in any circumstance. The only thing you can do is make it worse for people. And it's a real shame to see that there's been lots of companies lately that have seemingly like negligently doing that, like really trying to make an effort to make it as bad as possible, which is really disappointing.
Yeah, I've also been part of a reduction in force, and as they call it, again, it's like these. It was what John Foster that we had on that walked us through how there's like this masculine machine-based language that we use when we talk about people topics, and I think like that is another example, like reduction in force. But it's painful, and my experience has been that it was a blessing in disguise now looking back. But for all those that are working through this tough part of your journey, like I have a lot of empathy, because it is very, very painful, and there's like soul searching involved. Like, to Daniel, your point, that my ego self is going over every meeting that I could have done better in, or when I didn't get this deliverable done, or I could have shown more executive presence, or whatever, is going. I feel like I could have done better. But my rational self is like, well, I knew that this wasn't the job for me. This wasn't, this, I was ready to go in some way, shape, or form. But it's just weird how, even though that the rational side of my brain knows that to be true, there still is, and I think it's a very human process, a grieving process of sorts that you have to go through. Well, if you're going to process it in a healthy way, I believe that it's kind of good to go through that mourning process. And obviously, you don't want to spend too much time there, because the future is yours, right? Literally. And so, but I think that is very normal. And man, for those that have not been treated with respect, with compassion and kindness, that it is a shame that companies right now are just taking the opposite of a be human type of approach with what they're doing.
It's really comforting to hear the both of you share your experience of being laid off before. I didn't realize, how many people have, been through a layoff themselves. Like, 2 people that were on my marketing team reached out and they were like, yeah, I've been laid off 3 times. I've been laid off twice. And yeah, it really helps hearing that from people, because these are people that I admire, that I really respect. Stephen, we've worked together for a long time. I consider you one of my mentors, and yeah, so to hear that from you definitely helps.
Yeah, you can, I think, really tell people that haven't been through that personal experience before, or maybe that try to like repress how they felt during it. They're the ones that I think have slightly less empathy for how to deal with communications. And we were kind of briefly discussing before this call, right? Like, there's so much. We're going to go massively off piste, by the way, for like of the plan, and I think that's a good thing. But like, there's so much about layoffs that is operational. Like, it's about having like a really good, solid, thoughtful plan about how you communicate stuff and how you think about the questions people are going to ask, what's going to be happening in people's lives. And I think in the last couple of days, there's been 2 examples that have been kind of staggering differences to me with the Stripe layoffs that happened, where the CEO kind of, I think, did almost everything in the way that I would say is like by the book as being a good round of redundancies. There's a really clear public message. There's a very clear severance package that I think is as generous as any company can try and give. There's a clear outline of a plan of what they're going to do with people that have visa implications, or maybe you've got caring responsibility or mortgage applications going on. Like, these are the kinds of things that, like, yes, you are reducing force, and I do that in air quotes, but like, the force is, you're talking about a human, and this human may
people
have like a wedding coming up, or a sick child at home, or a mortgage that they're in the middle of applying for. Like, these are massive things that happen in human beings' lives. And then you see the other end of the spectrum, and we all know I'm talking about Twitter here, but like, people just getting literally being treated as a line on a P&L, and that is like, it's just unacceptable. There's just no way to treat humans at all. It's so devoid of humanity. It makes me really depressed.
Yeah, the Twitter story of the general manager who was let go, he wasn't even communicated with. Like they just like let him go, and he was dealing with a wife who had suddenly passed away. Like it's just gut wrenching. It is absolutely gut wrenching. And
Yeah.
I keep thinking back to having Sierra on the show, and she came on the show and she was like, employees, like you guys need to start setting, level setting your expectations because things are changing, and companies, you need to like really rethink your strategy and your talent acquisition plans because this is coming. And even with data, it seems as though companies still got caught up in the frothiness of the market and this race to capture the talent that they totally missed the ball here. And I just
Yeah.
wonder like what is it going to take for companies to just to understand like the repercussions of continuing to move forward with these plans that we know are now unfavorable given the market. Like it just, I guess, to re-summarize, it feels like some of this was avoidable, and I don't
Completely.
know, that could be naive of me. And so I'm curious your thoughts there, Jessica, on how,
Yeah.
obviously as a COO, you're planning the operations and you're working closely with your VP of people. And you're having these conversations. And,
Yeah.
and so I don't know, is it naivety to think that like these things could be avoided?
I think absolutely things can be avoided to some degree, right? Like obviously there are always, no one expected euro pound parity, a USD parity. Nobody expected like inflation to rise as much as it did over the last couple of months. There's lots of things that like shocking economic factors which have happened that the outcomes of those can't be avoided. And that's the kind of thing that I think you have to give some kind of credence to the businesses for. However, I will say I think the whole thing that's failed us in this instance, and I'm getting more and more skeptical of, is honestly it's the way that the VC world works, right? A lot of these things, like the first domino behind the layoffs is the company overhired, but the domino before that is VCs were pressuring companies to deploy capital, and the domino before that is VCs were investing way too much money in overvalued businesses, and the domino before that is COVID started disrupting the market, right? So like none of these things is just, oh, companies are overhiring. There's a huge amount of pressure from boards. Like even a year ago, Whereby did this to some degree. At the beginning of 2021, we had a gentle. I think our board is usually extremely sensible and very thoughtful about the advice that they give us. So massive props to them. But we still did have a gentle pressure to like really deploy capital. And I know a lot of other VCs on boards are much more aggressive about that message. Like hire more, grow faster, deploy capital. It doesn't matter if you burn out and crash and spend a bunch of money. The opportunity is what we care about. Like the lost opportunity is more expensive for us than the risks of what's going to happen. And that's because that's what they're optimizing for. And if you're maybe a founder with not so much experience or extremely aggressive founder when it comes to like kind of revenue capturing, you're going to listen to that advice and really want to take it on board because you want more fundraising, you want more profits, you want a higher valuation, you really care about it. And if you've got no one else in your team that's really like helping you pump the brakes a bit and say, wait a second, we don't need to 100% be risk averse, but at least a bit here. Let's like, how do we validate the market before we start investing so heavily? I think it's very easy to get swept up in those things. And there's a huge spectrum of companies along that line, right? There's a lot of companies out there that I think have been very thoughtful about their hiring, but they've been hit hard by the economic conditions and they're having to make layoffs. And there's some companies out there like, I'm not going to name them, but there's a company yesterday that made a round of layoffs, and on their layoff announcement mentioned that they were hiring over 100 people a month, which is 10% of their company every month. They were hiring another 10, another 100, another 100, another 100. And that to me is just like, there's no way that anybody can look at that and say that that's sustainable.
So yeah, I know you're the COO now, but for most VP of peoples out there, chief people officers, how involved are they in these conversations with the rest of the leadership team in terms of like, their strategy and what growth looks like?
This is such a great question because it's like hitting on an extremely touchy point for me. I think so. One of the things that we spoke about in our briefing, and like, sorry if I'm jumping around a little bit here, This French company that I really love called Figures did this set of research to find out what the gender split is in C-suite roles. And about, I think it's something like 80% of CPO roles are women, and the majority of the other C-suite roles are like less than 20%. So like I think COOs is like 13% or something in Europe. That is on the tin, not a huge surprise, right? You see that and you're like, well, yeah, that kind of unfortunately seems to be like the kind of way that genders have been split into these roles in my experience or anecdotally. But I think one of the things that is also a repercussion of it, or that I've seen recently in my career, is like a lot of roles or companies, hire a COO, a CFO, a CPO, a CTO, and then a VP people. And the VP people is the one that's kind of like outside of the executive team and feeds in their advice into a COO or CFO or CEO, but doesn't have the same kind of level of seat on the table. And I think a lot of this comes down to, honestly, I think gender perception and the kind of struggles that women still have in the workplace about being seen as being commercial leaders. The second thing is, honestly, I think people teams and VP peoples have been traditionally quite bad at marketing themselves as being really commercial leaders and making their space in those teams. And the third thing is this kind of general feeling that permeates, which is people operations is really just kind of like this ephemeral cultural thing. There's no ROI. It's the way that we feel when we all go out and have drinks on Friday. So why would we invite them to budget and planning other than just to tell us how many people they want to hire in their team?
Yeah. And the other thing I think about, so, HR leaders are the ones having to deal with the fallout of this domino effect over the last couple of years. And I think about
to interject really quickly, after all of the stress of having to hire 100 people or 10% of your workforce month, like that is a monumental ask of your VP of people and your talent acquisition team. And is very, very stressful. And so after all of that, then I just wanted to add that in.
No, you're right. You're right.
And you're one of the first teams that gets let go as well as the TA team.
Yeah. And that's sort of what I was getting to. Like, so the company I was working for, layoffs happened. I had a meeting with our VP of people later in the day just to walk through what's going to happen next, logistics, that kind of stuff. And in the back of my head, I'm thinking like she likely had to let go a few of the people on her team. And I could just see the pain like on her face. I was like, I almost felt more bad for her than I felt for myself, which sounds so weird to say, but I just couldn't help but, feel for her. I know that she probably had, back to back meetings all day like that. And that can't be easy. And I think about the gender dynamic that you're talking about. Like, it's mainly women that are having to deal with this. And I don't know.
Well, that's a sign that you're a very empathetic person. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. I mean, even, I think that the gender dynamic is a huge, ugly knot in exec teams that we need to unpick anyway. But like, even just pushing that to the side for a second and just saying roles, right? Just the people role, especially a VP people role, not included in an exec team making some of these decisions. It's a really awful position to be in, where you are the person that's responsible for executing something really painful that hurts a lot of people that you probably could have assisted in avoiding to some degree by being more involved in the pre-planning for some of these decisions. And I've myself had conversations and where I have pushed back on like sales hiring, for example, and said, I don't think we need to hire as aggressively in this market right now. This is still an unproven market. We're still not repeatable. And I have had sales leaders like send me WhatsApp messages and voice notes saying, you don't know what you're talking about, back off. And this is the kind of stuff that as a VP people often doesn't really get kind of surfaced. Then later on when redundancies are happening or layoffs are happening, no one's coming to the VP people and saying, we should have listened to your advice. The same cycle continues, right? When more capital comes in, when things get frothy again, we go back out and hire and everyone forgets what happened. Yeah, so I do feel like honestly something needs to dramatically change, I think, in the system more generally, and how venture capitalists build businesses and encourage and advise particularly kind of unexperienced founders. And the second thing is, how do we raise the people role to be a more commercial part of the operating functions of a business? and take those opinions on board. And I don't just mean the kind of ephemeral cultural opinions, which are very important. Thinking about the Twitter situation, the way that these layoffs have happened are going to have carry-on effects for years in the employer brand and the way that Twitter is thought about, way that Twitter spoke about in the media. There's a lot of lawsuits that aren't going to actually come to fruition for another year and a half, and those things are going to continue popping up. So this is a long burning problem, I think, for some of these companies, and a short solution for a long problem is the kind of thing a good people team should be there to try and help you alleviate.
So going back to something you said earlier, how a lot of CHROs aren't really thought of for roles like COO or CEO, because I don't know how you phrased it, but something about like they're not seen as being commercial. What did you say?
Something around like they're not being seen as like commercial leaders or having
Commercial
valid
leaders.
commercial opinions. Yeah.
How can they make themselves be seen as commercial leaders?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I often talk about is the fact that your CPO is responsible for the biggest investment that you make in your company generally. And that is the fact that your people expenses are about 60% of your overall operating expenses, right? Your headcount will be in almost every company somewhere between 60 and maybe, if you're really burning the oil, 70%. And then you've also got all of the other OpEx that goes underneath people, like learning and development and offices and travel and all of those bits and pieces, right? They all usually feed up under people, talent acquisition, et cetera, et cetera. So your chief people person or your VP people is responsible for a massive investment, a huge investment in your organization. And that presents a twofold responsibility, right? That presents a responsibility for the chief people person or VP people to stand up and take that commercial responsibility and talk about it in those terms, like understand what ROI is when it comes to people, and understand how to present their metrics in a way that really effectively measures what the company needs to do strategically. And we can kind of talk about that in a bit, I suppose. And the second side of the responsibility is there is a responsibility of the executive team to give that opportunity to your people person. Like, take that seriously that they're managing a huge investment. And when you're having conversations with them, elevate the conversation to, great, how are you taking care of this massive investment we're making? How are you mechanizing our performance, understanding people's happiness at work, being able to get the most out of our employees in a way that's effective and psychologically safe and sustainable by the products and tools you're implementing? Like, really thinking about it like a product. I think that's probably the best way, but it requires vulnerability on both sides compared to how that relationship usually works, I think.
It's interesting, like as I'm hearing you talk, Jessica, I'm being reminded of a Goldmanism, and that's what I call these things, these tenets that I learned in my time at the firm that just like were burned into my head. And one of those is the topic of commercial effectiveness. And I'll never forget my manager walking me through, Stephen, this is what it means to be commercially effective. And there's two ways that you drive commercial effectiveness. And one is increasing revenue, and the other one is decreasing costs. And the interesting thing that we have as people or people leaders is that we can do both, right? But I think the disconnect is that's not how the leadership view it. They view traditionally people as like a cost of the business. And for some reason forget, well, who's driving sales? Where are those sales coming from? Who's developing the product? Who's driving innovation? Those are all things that are happening by people. And so I think what I love about what you were just walking us through is, not only looking after 60% of, the operating expenses. I mean, that's massive, right? But you're also looking at what is critical. There's a reason why the VC firms push for hiring, because they knew, oh, we need more salespeople to close deals. We need more product people so we can build the best product out there, get it to market faster. And but I don't feel like that's how leadership teams are looking at this. Is that fair? Or, I guess I shouldn't use a blanket all leadership teams, right? But I think there are a lot of executives that still are looking at, at the cost basis of the people function and not, everything else.
Yeah, I think this is a good kind of segue to how I think about people operate, and maybe just operations more generally, right? Like, I really believe that there are three products that a company is building at any one time. You've got your product you're selling your customers, obviously. That's video conferencing or expense platforms or bricks, whatever it is. You're building something, you're selling it to somebody. That's the first product. The second product you're building is a financial instrument, right? And there's no avoiding that. Every company in the world is a financial instrument that somebody's either investing in or wanting to buy or giving someone money. It is an opportunity to create capital. That financial instrument is its own product, which is largely managed by the CEO. And the CEO is the one that's out there really making sure that they're leveraging the best investment advice, getting the best VC portfolios to invest and be able to be part of a bigger network and really get that financial instrument worth a lot of money. The final product is the product of what you're selling to your employees, right? And that product is a subscription product that you have 100, 1,000, 400, whatever people every single month make a conscious decision to continue to subscribe to. That responsibility is the responsibility of your chief people person, right? It's their responsibility to be able to say, like, our subscription product is effectively attracting and retaining high quality customers that we are getting mutual value out of. And if you change that frame of mind from we're a service organization here to help people have a nice working life into we need to optimize this customer relationship that we have, all of a sudden your whole thinking about how you're building stuff changes. The way that you interact with your customers becomes much more focused on optimizing this commercial relationship you have with them and much less on just serving the needs of the business from a cost cutting perspective. Because cost cutting, as we all know, if you touch products, and I'm sure lots of people listening here do, doesn't benefit your customers most of the time. Just relentlessly cutting costs actually really can make your customers have a very unsatisfactory time working with your products. So there is a balance there. It's a very cautious balance to reduce your cogs and increase your value.
I love that. Thinking about it as like what you're selling to your employees as a product of the business, a core product of the business, and looking at it as a subscription. I think it was Steve Cadigan, who we had on a few weeks ago in a group episode. We were talking about Gen Z and how they're used to everything being like a subscription model. And that's how they're viewing work from now on. Like, they're looking at it like, okay, I'm opting in to work at Whereby for now, but if I don't like it, I can opt out at any moment and go opt into another company as soon as I want. So yeah, that's really smart the way that you're thinking about
Thanks.
it as a subscription model. I don't think we've heard anybody else talk about it that way.
Literally nobody else have we heard talking about this. And I know that you've gotten a lot of recognition for, an article that you published on this topic. I'm just curious, was this like an evolution of thinking over time? Like, where did this come from? I love it as well. Or was it like a Newton apple falling on your head situation? Tell us about, how this thought process evolved.
Yeah. I think it was I feel like one of the things that I learned at Goldman, really, like I had a really great experience working at BHP, and that was like a really good foundation for me. Like I think my career I've been incredibly lucky to step into the different things I've stepped into. At BHP, I kind of got to do the rotation, so I saw all the different sides of HR. I saw accommodation and recruitment and payroll, the whole thing, right? Industrial relations. So I really have a kind of a baseline understanding of how all of these pieces fit together, which is great. One of the things I loved about Goldman was the fact that they were just like laser clear on exactly what Goldman was. Like, even if you don't love it or hate it, right? Like, and this is almost like what people say when they start working at Goldman. It's like, love it or hate it. You're at Goldman Sachs, you know what you're getting. Like, you sign a contract at Goldman, you know what you're getting into. No one comes into Goldman and they're like, oh, whoa, I'm working crazy hours. I never saw this coming. Like, oh, whoa, I'm getting massive bonuses if I do really well. Like, you know exactly what you're getting on the tin. And for the first time ever in my career, we were given a strat in the team. So we had a full-time, like, basically financial analyst writing algorithms in the HR team, trying to help us work out like how to optimize the work that we were doing in people ops. It was like this kind of amazing moment where I started really thinking like there are better ways to think about what we're doing in work than just something that you do because you don't have any other option. You just like come to a job and it's a nice job, whatever it is, but it doesn't mean anything other than getting a paycheck. And then over the next couple of years, I worked in like a bunch of different companies and really started refining the thinking until one of the things that I think I really liked about the strat or the quant and Goldman, and what that unlocked in me was recognizing that there are lots of things from other functions that people operations had always kind of ignored that are so valuable that you can just bring in. And not every team in the world needs like a full-time analyst writing algorithms, because they don't have like 700,000 CVs coming in or whatever it is. But this idea that like, oh, engineering are doing something that we could really use, and like the product team needs something we can use, the marketing team, and all of a sudden it was this kind of coming together of like, people operations is its whole own system, and that means that you need to really be much more commercial about how you think about it. And it kind of came to fruition when I during like kind of towards the end of COVID, I built a team that operated like a squad team when I was at McCann. So we had 2 squads that worked, and they worked just the same as a product squad, launching the tools and things that we were building internally. And I spoke to people about that model and why I was doing it that way. And a lot of people were really surprised about how it worked. So I just decided that I was going to write a bit of an overview about how I thought about working in squads as people teams and why. And then it really resonated with people.
Yeah, I've read, I didn't, for some reason it didn't make it into my LinkedIn feed algorithm when you you wrote the article in 2020, right?
Yeah, years ago. I'm actually writing a book on the topic now. It's coming out in a couple of months. Do my little flag.
Let's go.
It comes out in a couple of months. It's called Built for People: How to Optimize Your People Strategy Using Product Management Principles.
Built for People, guys, get that on your queue. Like, is it going to be? Is it going to be heart? Oh, perfect.
Yeah.
Well, I read the article, which is amazing. It really blew my mind. Just the way that, to Daniel's point, like it excites me when I see someone who's radically looking at things differently and can put substance behind it. And that's what I really loved about the article. And in the article, you say a product has to, 1, be the result of a process, and 2, offer something useful. In this case, we're talking about the employee experience. And so at what point did you realize, like, okay, I see now how working with these other groups that, that there's more here than what traditionally has been looked at in the people function. When did you realize, like, oh, I think this could be productized? And so, as you later went on, you go in to talk about how you can actually operate the people function like a product team using principles of like agile development and product management. And so, but did that organically come as you were like synthesizing, like, oh wow, we could look at this radically different? Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think one of the big kind of aha moments for me was when I was working at Box. I was working on a project creating our European employee value proposition. That's a mouthful for you. And to create our EVP, our key kind of competitors that we were looking at the time were like Twitter, Google, Dropbox, like the kind of the big fangish companies. We were just about to IPO, so this was kind of where we were looking, and we were interviewing people about what it was like to work at Box and really trying to get a bit of an understanding about what was on the market. And one of the things that kind of kept coming up again and again was what people presumed to be the culture, or what we should be attracting people based on. Free lunches, like snack walls, ping pong tables, bean bags. Like that was like, everyone can remember the kind of cringiness of early 2010s or whatever it was. Like, that was like the thing you did. Like, oh, we got a cereal wall, come work for us. There was a lot of that kind of chat going on. And then when we looked out into the marketplace, like who were we competing with? Like, yeah, they all had bigger cereal walls and more varieties of Snickers bars. Like, so we were like, okay, well, we can't go out there and be like, oh, come work for Box, we have Snickers bars, because everyone else has Snickers bars. So what is it that we're actually selling here? And this was like the moment that I really started being like, really crystallizing in my head that like, you really have to have a USP. Like, what is your unique selling point? Because it is a marketplace. Like, it literally is a marketplace that you're trying to stand out in. And if you don't have something that's actually tangibly unique or different, then you're just going to be another person. Like, you're just going to have your job offer compared based on salary and how many Snickers bars you have, if people like Snickers bars. So that was the real moment where I was like, what are people actually getting out of work? Or what is this experience? What's unique about it? And being able to kind of crystallize that made me I think pushed me leaps further into like really thinking about that as its own thing.
That so I'm a marketing nerd, and there's this guy named Andy Raskin, and he
Mm-hmm.
has what he calls the strategic narrative, and basically it's for marketing teams and telling them that you need to have like a point of view. Like you have to
Yeah.
have a strong point of view. If you don't, then you just sound like everybody else. And whatever that point of view is, it has to be like taking a stance against something, right? Like you have to make it like you know, so for example, drift. Are you familiar with
Mm-hmm.
drift? So
Yeah.
they were against forms. It was like no more forms. Like we're taking a stance
Yep.
against forms. So you need our chatbot. And the companies that I see execute this really well on the marketing side also seem to do a really good job on the talent attraction side. So one of our former guests, Refine Labs, I don't know if you've heard of
Mm-hmm.
them, but they're a B2B marketing agency, and they've grown from, I don't know, like one employee to probably like 150 in the last year and a half, 2 years. And the way that they did that was by having a very unique point of view on B2B marketing. And they were able to explain what the traditional bad B2B marketing looks like so well that everyone in B2B marketing jumped on this movement. And now everybody in marketing is saying the exact same thing that they're saying. So if you're a B2B marketer, you want to go work for them because you're like, this company gets it. So
Yeah.
I don't know, to your point, like you have to be saying something unique and really think about your USP. Otherwise, you're just looked at as a commodity. It's like, oh, that's a job. You know, I can go find a job at 10 other companies just like that.
Yeah, exactly. And perks only do so much, like, especially in this discussion that we're having around like subscription, right? Like once you reach a point in your life where whatever it is, Snickers bars is like the bad example I'm pulling out now, but
I
like,
love the
you know,
Snicker bar analogy.
so whatever it is that this perk is runs out of steam for you, like that's when you start being like, oh, well, I can just go somewhere else that has another thing that I can plug the gap with, right? Like people are getting more and more used to maybe 1 year, 2 year tenure. That's pretty standard. Like you don't have you don't- employers really need to think about like what their position is on the marketplace in a much more intentional way. And like it's one of the flags to me that I always, whenever I see like a careers page that I can pull up the competitor and the careers page looks identical, it's like the exact same information. And when I look at the Twitter account and you're just saying the exact same things, you're just posting your own blog content, I'm like, this company just doesn't, they don't have a position. Like what are they trying to do here?
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah.
I love it. So this all sounds like a, very sexy approach to people ops. And, based on our conversation with Kim Rower at Oyster, who we had on a few weeks ago, who chose a role as head of employee experience over a VP of people role, I can see how this approach could bring, fresh perspective and positive energy into traditional HR. So just curious, like what are the, what is the biggest challenge that leaders or entrepreneurs face when implementing this style of people operations?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think there's lots of different challenges depending on where you're at in a business, right? Like the two biggest ones that I'll kind of flag, um, the main one people come to me and ask about, and I do a lot of like consulting and advisory services trying to help really senior people move this way of working, is what if I already have a full team set up and I'm not working in this way at all? Like my team is really siloed. We have a comp and ben person, we have an L&D person, we don't have any of these kind of producty generalists. It's very difficult for us to make this work. And I think that's a really valid point, right? Like how do you turn a ship around that's already a fully designed ship? And I think that the one of the key takeaways, and I obviously talk about this in my book, and I feel like such a jerk saying that. Whenever I listen to a podcast and I was like, I talk about this in my book, I'm like, oh, no one cares about your book, man. Please care about my book. It's the first thing I spent a year and a half of my life writing it. But the thing that I think is really important here is like, I have met so many people in my life that are extremely talented and capable of stretching across the whole remit of people operations, right? I think it's been a real disservice that we've done to people ops And we kind of do this in marketing as well, where we say to someone like, oh, you're a growth marketer now, or you're a technical sourcer now. That's what you do for the rest of your life.
So true.
It's such a disempowering thing that companies do to people, because like somebody might at the moment be doing performance marketing or growth marketing or SEO or people sourcing or L&D or whatever, but like these are pretty T-shaped skills, and these are people that understand, like at its heart, people know the whole remit of what people are doing across the organization. Like if you're a people partner, you're speaking to people in engineering about how whatever their job looks like works, and you're speaking to people in product, you're speaking to people in design, and you have to kind of be able to have reasonably competent conversations with people across the entire company about the challenges they're facing, from managers to really junior members of the team. And if someone's capable of doing all that, whether it be as a people partner or in L&D design learning for all that big spectrum, I think you need to trust that they're capable of working together to build products that are more broad. And that means as a leader, you need to really assess your team and say like, okay, well, let's try and group people into a squad that we think is going to work, and just try this for 2 full cycles. Like try for 6 months, first 3-month cycle of picking some key challenges using the first principles thinking and designing solutions off that, rather than picking a solution because other companies are doing it. And then having the product squad that you've created lead the creation of that tool, whatever it is you're building. So rather than the kind of traditional HR model, which is the VP people says, oh, we have a problem, nobody's using their holiday allowance, I'm going to tell what the new policy is, and then somebody's going to go and write it, and then somebody's going to go and communicate it. You say, here's a problem, no one's using enough holiday allowance. Team, brains trust, go and do user research, figure it out, what's the solution, how do we design it, how do we build it, and then how do we ship it?
Yeah, we had John Foster on, and he talked about human-centered design, and it sounds like you're saying a lot of the same things.
Yeah.
By the way, you should be proud of your book and mentioning that you're publishing this book as many times as you want, because it's fucking awesome. Like, I don't know many people that can say that they've published a book, so you have every right to be proud of that.
And
Thanks.
and then I ditto to everything Daniel just said, but the and is, this is such I will say groundbreaking or like innovative way of looking at what we do. And there was a post I saw on LinkedIn like a couple of days that CHROs and chief people officers are resigning at the like a super high rate. I think the post, I pulled it up because I was going to mention it earlier, Tracy Sponenberg. I hope I said your name correctly, and I would love to have you on the Modern People Leader. But she posted, she's the chief people officer at the Granite Group, and she said, over the past week, I've talked to several friends who've either recently left their CHRO roles or in the process of leaving. And so I can see why. Like, I won't read the rest of it, but I can see why we are losing leaders in our function, in what we do, because the old way just seems so broken. And it's like, what is it going to take to show people like that there's a better way out there? Well, we need books like the book you're writing, Jessica. I think that is part of the thing. And when I think about product, as I was listening to what you were saying, one of the things that I believe has contributed to the growth in just the tech industry, the SaaS industry, is when open source tools, like tools where you can share code, you can share ideas, the Stack Overflows, the GitHubs, like the repositories for knowledge sharing, and that led to, then the agile principles, like all of this stuff. It did not just happen overnight. These were communities of people who shared innovative thinking, shared tools and resources to others. And what I love about what I'm seeing in the people space is, there is this growing sense of community and of like open source sharing. Like, here's what we do. Like, and I think of the work like Darren Murphy is doing and the team at GitLab. Like, it feels like there are more and more, there's a growing community of sharing of these kind of cutting edge ways of working. But not only do we need the community, but we need the, the best practices to come along with it. And so I'm super psyched to read your book, Jessica. I think it's going to be, I want to get into the details. Unfortunately, we don't have enough time. And in fact,
Okay.
I think I have time for one more question today. And that is, circling back to where we started, in your current role as a chief operating officer, do you see like a higher application of these principles? So is there like an ops as a product as well? Like, and I've never been a COO, and I haven't spent a lot of time in the operations function, but can you apply these in different ways, the principles of the book that you're writing and what we've talked about?
Yeah, I think I've spent a lot of time thinking about this. I think the people operations analogy works so well because I really do believe that there is like this, the fact that it's an external facing product is a big part of it, right? Like the customers for the actual product or the customers, that's a silly thing to say, the customers for the financial instrument of investors and VCs or whoever it may be, and then your customers for this other product are your employees. You can stretch the analogy to say ops, and I definitely think you can stretch the ways of working easily, right? Like my entire ops team functions like a product team. We have to think about things as much as we can in sprints, etc. The challenge I think there is that this analogy about like what the product actually looks like, it stretches and bends a little bit, right? Because you haven't got the same ways of thinking about it. But I will say that just applying this kind of rigor around kind of human-centric design, user testing, putting first principles at the front of every type of solution that you present forward to your team, these are things that I think the whole company will benefit from if your people team start operating this way, because they will see your people team doing it and say like, oh, I want a piece of that. Like the people team is super effective. They're launching things that are, we're really proud of, that I like using. Why can't the finance team do that? Let's try and do the same thing. And the finance team won't have this same kind of, oh, we're going to be banding together as a product function, because I do think the finance team has they're much more of a service internally, I will say that. But services are products too. So I think you need to think about that in its own separate lane.
All right. So I don't even know where we're at on time, but it feels like we should move into the rapid fire questions. So first question for you. How do you define a modern people leader? What are the traits and characteristics?
Yeah, this is a great question. I'm going to give a very short answer. I think the number one thing that I would look for in a modern people leader is someone that is like aggressively curious and opinionated. I want someone that's able to look at every other function and really ask detailed questions about why they're doing things, not because they want to micromanage, not like, oh, I think you should change the wording of the copy on the marketing emails, but asking like, why did we pick that wording and what does it mean and what is our tone of voice? People leaders need to really deeply understand the strategy of the company and how that's being operationalized by the team, how it's being thought about. And if your people leader is not kind of almost painfully curious and painfully opinionated about other teams, then that for me is a really big red flag.
Love it. Aggressively curious and opinionated. I'm going to remember that. All right. If you could go back in time and talk to a 22-year-old you, what career advice would you give yourself and why?
Yeah, 22-year-old me, what a different person. I think I'd barely even left Australia at that point. I think maybe be more aggressively opinionated and curious. Take my own medicine, do it quicker, right? Like for a long time, I was very aware of the place that people operations had in the organization. I wasn't willing to disrupt that, even internally, right? Like it was a gradual process. I think so. Yeah, the advice would be like internally feel comfortable with disrupting what you like doing at work should look like. Like don't feel like you have to look at other people and say we need to do exactly this or this is what my place is here. Be comfortable even just within yourself saying, why does this make sense? Why are we doing this? I think I was a little bit apprehensive when I was 22.
I think sometimes it's easier to just go the easy route and not really try to disrupt things. Yeah, I don't know. I've been in situations in past roles where it's like blatantly obvious to me that the way that we're doing things just doesn't work anymore. and gone through the process of being aggressively curious and opinionated. And it's like kind of a painful process, right? Like,
yeah, it's not nice.
because it
Well,
changes.
especially if you have and not even like a toxic manager. I don't think they have to be toxic, but like a closed-minded, like a not open thinking manager, because they're going to beat you back. And when you get beat back, or you get chopped down at the knees in the middle of a meeting because you're just asking, probably a really pertinent and curious question, but you get cut off, and it's like the first time that happens, my soul gets crushed a little bit, and my willingness to be, to be candid and to be curious and to ask great probing questions, I lose that a little more every time I'm like publicly humiliated by a manager.
Oh God, there's so many bad managers out there. Maybe the advice is don't listen to managers that make you feel like shit. Maybe that's what the advice actually is. Like, if you're being managed by someone that makes you feel terrible, then like they aren't worth the opinion.
All right, last question. If you could fix
Yes.
any people problem with a magic wand, what would it be and why?
And you can't say bad managers on this one.
No. I've got a pre-prepared box to answer for this one. One of my biggest pet peeves is when people teams think in inputs rather than outputs. So they're like, implement this tool or write this policy or ship this whatever, rather than adjust this, like move this candidate position from X to Y or increase time to hire by blah, blah, blah. That would be the biggest thing. If I could get every people team in the world to start thinking in outputs rather than thinking in inputs, I think the world would be a much better place.
I love that also. And I feel like it would be a lot easier to be effective in the projects and initiatives we have. Well, that gets us to the end of the show, tier, because it's been a great show. Yeah, for those, it will make more sense for those watching the YouTube version of these. So, final two questions. First, if you were to choose one or two people that you respect, admire as people leaders, who are those people? Who should we bring on to the show next?
Yes. So I thought about this, and I think Mary Jant, if you haven't already spoken to her, would be a great person. She's speaking a lot. She works at a company called Alpha, which is like helping empower female leaders in businesses, but she does a lot of discussion around compensation transparency, and she's really pushing for more compensation transparency. Great thoughts on that space. And then same kind of realm, but different person is actually, I think you should speak to Virgil, the CEO and founder of Figures, who's a brand new European compensation comp and ben platform. His thinking around how, particularly around equitable compensation and how to think about fair compensation in your organization, is really advanced and really thoughtful. And he's also just an absolute sweetheart, and he's got a great French accent. So I think everyone will love listening to that.
And one of our goals is to have more European people leaders on the show. Part of, as Daniel mentioned earlier, we have big plans now that we're formalizing things at the Modern People Leaders. So very cool. Well, we're excited. We'll reach out to both and would be honored to have, either or both on the show. And so that gets us to the last tradition we have on the show, and that's what we call one word, one phrase close. Just, anything that is coming up for you, just looking back on the conversation we just had. Who wants to go first?
I think it's 5. I needed to tell you that it's a 5 out of 5 Friday. It's made my week, right? That we said at the beginning is, what's the rating? The rating's 5.
Yes.
That's the last word.
Mine is.
We need that. I wish we had like audio production, because we would need like a one of those cheers.
Clapping
yeah.
yeah. Although somebody gave me feedback that they really appreciate that we don't have that.
Okay, good.
Shout out to
okay,
that person.
Well, bad idea, Stephen.
I'm gonna say my heart is full. I feel like I don't know. It's been a roller coaster of a week, and this was the best way I could have possibly ended it.
Yeah,
Nice.
I love that. And I'm going to choose 2 words, empathy and compassion, just because I feel like it's been a great conversation, but I'm still sitting in a lot of feels, and if anyone that's out there is listening, that's having a tough time, there's 3 people on this call, not to mention the Modern People Leader community, which is growing and growing, and reach out to one of us or all of us. And, we would love to have a chat and help in any way we can. So yeah, empathy and compassion is mine. Well, Jessica, this was such an amazing conversation. It was, this is great. They're all great, but some of them just feel, when you end it, just feel like awesome. And I'm feeling that way. And so thank you for joining us. And hopefully we like to have our guests back. So hopefully you'd be open to rejoining us in the future sometime.
Absolutely. It's been honestly, it's been a real delight. You two are such angels. I'm really happy to chat to you. And I'm really looking forward to staying in touch over the next couple of years and months as well, to see how everything progresses with everyone.
Awesome. And we'll make sure to hang on right after this, because I want to get the pre-sale link for the book. That way we can include it.
Yeah, I'll find it.
All right.
Bye, guys. Have a great weekend.
Okay. Bye.